Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching from a different time zone, good evening or good morning, at least, especially for the person that I will interview today. My name is Mary Len. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co-creating customized program with our world-class resources. So we have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, and that includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, PruLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. Experts say that the pandemic will last for the next 3 to 5 years. And this is why we are organizing several interventions, such as this interview, to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the new normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and for entrepreneurs or small business owners or even big companies, that feels that it's so difficult to keep their team and business in this uncertain situation or interesting times, I would say. So to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, we're glad that you are here to listen to us or to watch this interview and the rest of our interventions. So for today, it's my pleasure to introduce our leader, Martin Altherr. He helped people with a self transformation code to overcome their fears, recode their core imprints, and break through their blockages in an easy and sustainable way for the last 20 years. In one of the in on one-on-one transformation intervention, he worked for more than 5,870 people, rather, as a teacher at institutions and schools for therapists, and in seminars thousands of people got the tools to achieve what mattered the most to them. And in his individual settings and seminars, he works with people from various industries. This allows them to use their full potential for successful and fulfilling work and private life, and to redefine the limits of the possible. His clients include corporate professionals, Hollywood actors, athletes, doctors, therapists, and entrepreneurs. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring and invite here Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hey Merlin, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm glad that I'll have you here. I'm so excited what we're going to discuss today, and what actually our audience will be learning from you today as well. So thank you so much for being here, and for taking time to have this interview. So let's
Thank you
jump
so much
in.
for having me.
It's my pleasure. So let's jump in right to the questions. Basically, I do have like 8 questions for you. The first three is mainly for us to be able to understand from which perspective are you actually coming from, right? And
Right.
then I would say the juicy part will be on the fourth to sixth question, where we're learning more from you. And the last 2 questions will be my Miss Universe questions for you. So yeah, so to start with, I just wanted to understand and let the viewers know like what your leadership experience is, and probably your influencers, your favorite leadership style, if you have, please share with us.
Okay, I guess I have to really start very early in my life. That is when I turned 16, because there I had the big chance to build my first audio studio and doing soundtracks for films, for movies, for short clips, etc. And that actually I did because I was studying acting as a 16
Mhm.
years old, and so it was my
Wow.
passion also about music, etc. And so I wanted to build that, and I had the chance, in fact, to do this, and was building there an audio studio, and had very quick enough success that I had also to have employees to work with them. And so I got in touch already very early with leadership. So I had really suddenly, I stood there and had to lead people, and it was very new for me. So I had to learn really a lot already that time, of course,
Mhm.
especially when you're so young. You can imagine it's kind of right challenging, because suddenly you have also people to lead who are elder than you. You have to get in touch with people who are even younger than you, and
Mhm.
there are so many things you have to bridge also in between. And as a 16 years old, of course I was not that good at, but we were good with the company, so that was a good thing. So we could develop even further and could build then from that and video studio. And then we did clips for who is maybe in the Western world a bit more known about is Veleda. That is one of the bigger companies we did works for. And so we were just working for different DM drugstores. That is like one of the biggest drugstores here in Europe.
Wow.
We did different kind of videos, etc. And so we had also there, of course, to build up. And so these were my first touch grounds with leadership. And then, but as you can imagine, I was studying acting. Then first, my real passion, acting, came in front after doing the diploma. And so I decided then going on stages and running around. So I sold my companies and just did acting. And so there I came in connection with completely a different world again. And there you have either sometimes when you do musical, for example, that was one of my favorites, what I did. There you are suddenly team captain for acting, or your team
Mhm.
captain for vocals. And there you have again a new way of leadership, because you have a completely different area of people you
Mhm.
have to lead, and a different way of communication you have to lead. And then one day in my life, that was short before 30, I decided actually I want to build a family. And as an actor, you cannot do that. I mean, you
Mhm.
can, but you have to travel around, or either your family travels around with you, or you never see your family. And I didn't
Mhm.
want that my family has to travel. So I wanted to stay somewhere in a place, and so on. You can imagine, and then acting is gone. So I had to
Mhm.
find something new, and actually I did two things. One thing was the jewelry business, and the other thing was then after a tragic story, but that has no space now today. Those who are interested, they can check out my stories on my profiles. They will find it there. But what was very impactful for me then is that I said I have to learn and study psychology.
Mhm.
And there I came actually in connection with my real calling, which I'm doing since then till today. And that time I was then working in the very beginning more with traumatized people. So I was a therapist as such, and have developed then there the self transformation code, because I was on the search for an method that gives the blink of an eye transformation. And the blink of an eye transformation I experienced myself that time, and that is why I thought there must be something very specific that helps me to have that again and again. And by studying about it, I figured out that there are a lot of amazing impactful techniques out there, but none
Mhm.
of them really gave me that blink of an eye transformation. So I was searching for that and searching for that, and after a while I found it. And by finding it, I could create it. And by creating it, I applied it to myself, and I had super success with it. And there I moved suddenly in a completely different area, because now suddenly doctors came in, high level executives came in. So suddenly people came in, they had a total different background. And they were very excited working with me, because they heard that I have this possibility of blink of an eye transformations. And there I maybe have to clarify shortly for the audience also the difference between breakthrough and transformation. A breakthrough is an insight where I see, now I know how to work with, and then I have a breakthrough. And that happens actually in the frontal lobe. And the transformation, that is something completely different. That is something where you don't have only the insight, but you have also a complete life shifting towards the design you actually wanted to create for your life. To make that maybe visible is like, for example, you are living in a relationship where you every time bump in the wrong partner, and you every time have hyper crises in your relationships, or if you have a money issue, or if you have a career issue, um, and suddenly you make a transformation. And after that transformation, suddenly you can make your career, suddenly you can have the right partner, suddenly you can have the money you need. So that is what we call transformation, the real life shift. We call it even a shift of fate, because many people believe how they live and how they have their life, that is their fate. It's just how they are born into, and they have to live the life as it is. But that's not true, because the transformation happens here in the brainstem. And the
Mhm.
brainstem is coded with different conscious and unconscious experiences. And these conscious and unconscious experiences are actually making the big deal of how you live your life and how you believe that your life has to be, meaning fate, right?
Mhm.
So that is also why a word of mine is, you can, if you go through the process, you can shift your fate. So that is a bit the background how I how I came to what I'm doing nowadays. My personal story take a bit too long. I think I don't want to bore out your audience with that. They can check it out on my profiles. But anyhow, influencers, you asked, who was influencing my life? There was for sure Bert Hellinger, which was the founder of the family systemics and family constellations, and through this also the business constellations, which is called structural constellations. That has influenced me and my work a lot. And another one is, of course, Robert Kiyosaki, and from this German area here, Bodo Schäfer. He's doing a lot in money. He's an expert and money coach, and one who really inspired me a lot on my spiritual path, because that is something I very much connect when it comes to leadership, is also the personal path and the spiritual path,
Mhm.
was Stylianis Ateshlis, also called Daskalos from Greece. So these are actually, let's say, the among many others, the main influencers of my life and my work.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing with us your story. I know it's been a long story that you've shared with us, and it's impressive that you've started to, your journey at 16 years old, and not a lot of us would have that opportunity to be able to really learn as, at an early age. And yet, as you actually move on to different things that you do, and with the things that you do now on transformation, it really gave you an opportunity to, like what you've said, if you have to deal with different type of people, like executives, doctors, and those kind of high level people, then it requires you to, like, communicate differently with them, obviously, right? And I really appreciate that, you shared with us how holistic is your work is. I mean, you've mentioned about, like, working on your mindset, your soul. And a lot of times I would say, like, I mean, at least from the conversations I have with some of my clients in the interviews I had in the past, that, a lot of times they miss out on that soul part, right? Or in the subconscious part, I would say, because I feel like a lot of the subconscious transformation that you've shared is, a lot to do with the subconscious, as well as with the with like, we always hear about the mindset and, like, emotions. Now emotional intelligence is, a trend, I would say, but again, it's very important. And again, the subconscious, like, has a huge role in how these behaviors, like what you've shared earlier, comes out, because these are from our past experiences and trauma as well. So I really appreciate that you've shared it with us in a very simple way. And, having to share all those that you've done in the past, what is leadership for you then? How would you define it?
That's a good question. Leadership, I could actually put in 3 points:
Mhm.
connection, envision, and lead connected towards the vision. So these are actually the 3 points what I would say that's leadership.
Mhm.
If you're able to connect, might it be in a team, if you're able to connect to your team and you're connected and interconnected with your team, and you have not the how shall I say, not the typical boundaries. I'm your boss, you're my worker, but you
Mhm.
have the natural boundaries that both sides feel respected, seen, and are involved in the project. So that is what I would say in a short term is connecting. There's way much behind, but I guess we cannot extend over a few hours today. So I would say I let it there. And vision is, of course, you need to be in fire with the vision. You must be able to to have a vision which has a purpose, and this purpose must maybe even follow a higher purpose, and this higher purpose and purpose leads then to a credible vision where everybody will follow you naturally, because
Mhm.
everybody who follows wants also to get to that vision, and then you lead connected towards that vision. That would be then the third part, where the whole part of leading and techniques of leading and how you lead actually properly in a team and also in a company, also as a company owner. Because finally, even if you say, I'm just the owner, I have my executive there and the executive is doing everything, I just cash out my thing and it's done. You lead your company as an owner as well, if you involve yourself with a vision, with a purpose and a higher purpose, which has a lot to do also with understanding yourself. You have to understand also yourself as a human being who is born with a mission. And when you get there, then you will maybe not involve that much in the tasks, in the daily tasks of your CEO, but you will involve into the movement towards your vision. And that is, I guess, I would say that answers actually your question the right way.
Wow, yes, thank you so much. And again, like it takes, working with humans, right? Being connected with them, not only having that vision that you work for, but also connecting with the people that you work with along the way, right? So I love how you defined what leadership is, right? And as you know, when COVID hits, right, as I also like shared in my introduction, right, there were like some challenges in terms of how we can actually, or how some leaders can actually, like, handle this, and like we've been hearing a lot as well about new normal, next normal, or whatever they call it. So how, for you, how would you define and describe the next normal?
Wow, I like it. I really like it, because that is exactly a topic. I just a few days ago I was discussing with a client of mine from Novartis in the higher management level, and I told him there doesn't exist a next normal, and there never exist a normal before. Meaning, normal doesn't exist, never ever. And if you get that point, if you understand this, then you are ready for everything that's coming and everything that was. Because actually, I mean, we know it from let's say so-called gurus or spiritual teachers, and we know you have to live in the moment, right? You have to live in the now, because if you live in the past, you are sad or depressed or whatever. If you live in the future, you live in fear and in anxieties. If you live in the now, there's the place where you self-determined can take action, right? And when you take that spot, we are in the now, then there doesn't exist a normal, because everything is every second new and every second to grab new. And if you understand this, because that is what happens often, people say, we are in a normal and we run the routine, and that is exactly the dead for actually proper leadership. Because in that second you believe there exists a normal, you start to run routines, and routines never will fit to the whole team or to the whole company or to the whole situation in a country of a company, etc. So you have to accept that there never exists a normal, but there also doesn't exist unnormal. It exists only the now. And when you work with the now, then I would say that's the best way to overcome this situation now, to finally do the step you should have done already years before, to step into the now and to accept there doesn't exist any normal.
Wow, wow. It's the first time that I've actually heard someone who answered it this way, and I love it. Yeah, it's like kind of similar to what Simon Sinek also shared in his recent video, that, uncertainty has been always, you know, been around ever before the COVID-19, and it's about, again, being able to live in the now, being present, and being able to prepare for it, even, any circumstances, happens, right? Making it simple and looking into the evergreen and principle things, like, working on yourself, having the right mindset, taking action, and all those stuff. And these are all principles that, we have to look into, rather than oh, it's the next normal, or there's so much uncertainty and all those stuff. So I really love how you've actually defined it. And yeah.
I think it is here also maybe to credit to the people who are listening maybe here now and saying, come on, I was now so long in a good normal. As it's typical for us human beings, we want things in a structure, and we
Mhm.
don't want this structure to change anymore, because then we
Exactly.
feel kind of safe. But playing safe in leadership doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. It even doesn't work as an employee. It doesn't
Mhm.
work for anybody, actually. I mean, I bring here every time the picture of a ship. A ship is very safe in its harbor, but it's not built for a harbor.
Mhm.
It's built to float on the sea. And the sea is dangerous. The sea is every second new. And this picture is actually something I would really I hope many of those who listen now or watch now, that you take that picture in your heart, that you understand that if the sea is rough or if the sea is flat, it doesn't matter. It's the sea, and you have to reach a new harbor. So you have to go that stripe anyhow. So find every time the right things to adjust everybody, the whole crew of the ship, to build the right position to reach that harbor. And that is actually always in the now decision, because on the sea, you cannot go like I'm safe. You cannot go like I can plan everything. You have a weather forecast pretty nice. It's one day to travel from A to B. It's going over the open sea, and suddenly there is a typhoon. Welcome. Now you have to act every single second. And that is actually what happened now also a bit to the whole globally situation, which
Mhm.
in my eyes is a big transformative process, by the way.
Mhm.
I don't see it as something bad. I see it
Mhm.
actually as a huge chance for many, although many businesses really suffer from that. I mean, that we have also to acknowledge.
Mhm.
And although I see it as a big, huge transformation which happens right now globally. But anyhow, this situation would not shake you if you are
Mhm.
from the position of there doesn't exist normal.
Mhm. Yeah, and speaking of the sea and the uncertainty that you've shared with us when you're out and about in the sea or in the ocean, right? Um, for sure, like from your experience transforming a lot of leaders globally, what would you say would be the top three problems that they normally face?
I'm not sure if everybody would agree to me, but what I have experienced in the depth, and I think the in depth answer is here the one which is of interest. We can, of course, on the surface, we can scratch so many. Here is a challenge, there is a challenge, but the in depth challenge, in my eyes, the most of the leaders out there have is lack of self reflection, lack of natural authority, and lack of trust from their company owner. I would say these are the three major challenges they have, meaning they should go into self reflection. Means we know every leader from a certain level has a coach, but often having a coach comes again in this cozy comfort zone of we have now a normal, you coach me a bit, I'm listening a bit, and I do anyway what I want. And then we are again actually there where we have a normal but no movement forward. So you need somebody who's really challenging you day by day. You meet that person, you need somebody who really grabs the deepest depth of your parts which are not yet reflected in order to grow. Because it's not to deprecate somebody, because that's something often is misunderstood. Often they believe,
Mhm.
oh, but then I'm going to tell my child story. What has that to do with here? Some has not. But if there is something in your personality structure that every time leads to a certain result you don't want, then you can be 100% sure there's either an imprint or a systemic entanglement or an epigenetic coding that is holding you back from thriving and from being a better leader. And then you have to go into the depth. You have to go really to the deepest roots. What is going on here with me? And you have to reflect that. And that is why I say That is one of the challenges. Often they have lack of self-reflection. Many say, but I have a supervisor. Yes, you have, but you have not somebody who's really going to challenge you to the depth. Lack of natural authority comes out of that, because if you're not, if you didn't really pursue personal development in a such intensive way, you will not create this natural authority. You will not be able to just be a natural authority. And you can actually test that with yourself. If you enter into a room and people love to see you and follow you with a tiny wink of the finger, not because they are afraid of you, because they follow you with passion, then you have natural authority. And
Mm-hmm.
often people believe, when I have spread enough fear, people do what I say. Yes, they do what you say, but in the back, when you turn your back, they play unfair against you. So whatever you do and whatever you create in your life, and you want to be a real good leader, you have to develop yourself constantly until your last breath. Listen, I do that also. I have 2 3 mentors fix for me, and I see them once a week, and I develop myself and I develop my deepest roots, even if I believe I have actually done really a lot, over the last 20, 30 years, but I'm still working on it, and I'm finding and finding and finding, and it really makes a difference. I see that when I work then with other authorities, I feel the push and the power we can create together because I grew. So I can really feel that. And that is something which I would say is also very important, when the lack of authority, to lead it into natural authority and to even increase that day by day. And then the lack of trust through the company owner, that speaks especially to the CEOs. That is really a problem. That is really a challenge, that often they are so much in boxes, put in boxes and put in regulations, that they cannot develop their own authority. They cannot develop their part as vision, which means actually the company owner has then to go through that work to go out of lack of self-reflection, to go out of lack of authority, and then give the trust to the people they're working for him.
Wow, that's really great that you've shared with us some of these issues, which I believe a lot of companies are facing. And again, it starts with reflection or self awareness, right? Before they can even really like gain that, or improve in their relationship or whatever they do in terms of um, how they can actually gain that authority and trust that you've also mentioned, right? At the end of the day. And so obviously we're not gonna leave them with all those problems without trying to somehow solve it by sharing with them what would be the top leadership capabilities and skills that they must have for them in order. I mean, you've also mentioned earlier about thriving, right? And so like what like capabilities or skills do they have to have for them to be able to like lead effectively.
Okay. Actually, it leads to the second question you asked today: connect and vision,
Yes.
lead connected towards
Mhm.
vision. On the other hand, to maybe deepen that now a bit, because here I guess we have the space for that. Connect means also to be able to feel empathy. But if you want to feel empathy, you must feel empathy for yourself. And to feel empathy for yourself leads first to the fact that you have empathy for others. That's the very first thing. It's like, if you want to love someone, you have to love yourself first. Otherwise, you're not really able to love somebody. Then the other thing is self-esteem and self-confidence. You have to be confident. You have to build up your self-esteem, and that leads actually to just what I said before. You have to get into the depth of your deepest grounds and work on it in order to create this natural self-esteem and confidence, which leads to your natural authority. And then the capability to envision comes actually automatically when you have empathy, when you feel self-love, when you feel these are words which are often abused also in spiritual circles. So stay with me and bear with me. I don't mean it kind of kumbaya sitting at the bonfire at the beach. I'm really talking about, in fact, self-love. I mean that you can really accept yourself, that you can love yourself as who you truly are, and being also really competent to yourself. And that goes, of course, again to this what we just talked before, that you have to self-reflect and to work on it and to transform yourself in order to thrive, to get this to the point. And I guess that is I would say these are the most important things to be successful in the future, being able to envision and to see the purpose and higher purpose of whatever you do, and to transfer that. And that is maybe another capability you really need, the capability to set others on fire. And how can you set others on fire? You must be an empath. It means you must at least have empathy. You must understand those who are with you, because only when you understand them, you can set them in fire.
Other than empathy, are there anything else that you would say that will be important in this situation for them to be able to lead effectively?
In this situation right now, where we actually almost only online, I mean, many companies were already online before that global
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's even for many of those, it's nothing new. I mean, they do that already. They proceed that already since years. But what is there is, you need to have every time a bit time, or do you have to make time for the people you lead? Because that's the only way you will understand them. And I'm not talking about qualification talks. I'm talking about real personal talks to understand who
Mm-hmm.
is the one who is helping you in your team, that you know and feel where this person stands, where this person is at. And that is, in my eyes, if you master this, you actually don't need any other skill except the skills you need to have for your company. I mean, otherwise the company would not have hired you, right? I mean, if you don't have your basic skills of what you do, I mean, if you're hired as an IT, as chief of IT, or if you are hired as a CEO, you must have your skills as a CEO in that branch where you're working, or at least you must have a transfer and bridged the knowledge from the branch you came from to the branch where you're at now. So that is, I mean, that is clear. I think there we don't have to talk about.
Yes.
Although I agree on a certain level that sometimes people believe they are more capable than they truly are, and some bosses believe that they're that capable as they believe they are, and they are not. So actually it makes sense, just go over your capabilities and self-reflect. And here we are again, self-reflection is actually a capability you need in order to really move forward, and in order to be present and to be skillful, and in order to be successful in the old world as it was, and in the new world as it is today, and in the future worlds as whatever they will be. To be in the present successful, you need to be able to be self-reflective and to grow. I mean, I cannot repeat it more often enough. I mean, somebody
Mhm.
maybe who listens now will say, come on, bring something new. Have you mastered it? If yes, then I gladly bring something new. But that's the point. So many have heard it and then they say, I've heard it, now I can forget it and I continue. No, start to implement. And if you implement it, then changes are happening.
Yes, true. And I am glad that you reminded us that it's important to implement it, because at the end of the day, how can you actually get results without implementing anything or applying anything, right? And even the things that you've learned. I mean, in our conversation, you've mentioned quite a number of things around leadership and transformation, and probably you can touch more on the role of learning on top of leadership and transformation in thriving in the next normal.
Okay, it's also again the next normal. we have now. we have now. but anyhow, but anyhow, um, the role of learning. I mean, that is what I said already. I have three mentors, and I'm learning steadily. I mean, 3 times a week, an hour. I'm pushed. So that is something you should have done already before the new situation. You should have done years before. You should have done actually when you started working. But nobody is teaching you that. So I even teach sometimes when somebody comes from as just I am just employee and I want to climb the career ladder, what do I have to do? Learning. That's the first thing. Learning, self-reflections, self-transformation, and grow. That is what you have to do in order to become a future leader. And the leaders in the future, and that is what I observe very much, especially in the youth. When I can more talk about Europe, because Asia, I have the one or the other already as a client, and had already some clients from Asia, but I have not so much deeper knowledge into the youth in Asia. But here in Europe, and I'm pretty sure it's not so different, because I observe it a bit more as a global phenomenon. The youth nowadays, if you say, I'm this company, I offer this and this, and you don't have a purpose and a higher purpose, they're not interested anymore. So just be aware. Soon you're not a leader anymore if you are not connecting yourself with these topics. You will be out of business faster than you can think, because our youth says, I don't care. I'm not interested. Bye. Ciao. That's it. And that is what I see here in the Western world very much. The young people already in the age of 16, 17, 18. I mean, maybe I was one of the early ones, I was starting already with 16. But when I see now, it's a wide mass of young people. If you cannot deliver a proper purpose and a higher purpose of your company, and if it's not somehow in concern of the global situation, if you're playing against the global situation, they're out. They're not working with you. They maybe come because they get good money, but they're not working with you. They just come to get their paycheck. That's it. And they deliver as much as they need to, and that's it. But that's not a situation to thrive. So learn that you have to connect to these points we have spoken already before.
Yes, correct. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really love that you've shared about how continuous learning will be key for you to really learn how to reflect on yourself and deliver that high purpose to stay relevant. And at the end of the day, you can only stay relevant if you continuously learn and improve on yourself, right? And apply it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads me, I mean, let's like move to the last two questions, because we've actually learned quite a lot from you on learning leadership and transformation, obviously. So I just wanted to like hear from you, and I'm curious to know, like, if you do have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
What would I do with a magic wand? I guess, I guess I would wipe it twice or thrice, whatever is needed that it works. I mean, okay, let's put it like this. First, I would figure out how it works. And when I know how it works, then I would use it, because as I understand you, I have one wish, right? I have one time magic wand. Then I guess I would do the magic that every human being starts to become self-aware, because that would change everything. And I
Wow,
mean,
that's
really self-aware.
and I'm so like I would say I'm so passionate about self-awareness as well, and I really appreciate that, that's something common to us. And again, like, I believe that this is also like why like issues comes out, because even if it's either they are unaware of themselves, or they try to not accept it, or not, express themselves as they are, as what would make them happy and as they are, right? To being connected, as you mentioned also earlier in what you shared with us. So yes, it's all about self-awareness, and that's like that gives us an opportunity to also, like, self-reflect. Yeah.
I think self-awareness, how I mean it, has the effect and the side effect that you start to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to feel yourself. And I mean, you start to feel pain if you do the
Mm-hmm.
wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that I mean with self-awareness, so that you really become self-aware on all levels, on the spiritual level, on the physical level, on the mental level, on the energetical level, and on the physical level. And if you're really aware, then you start, in fact, to feel a form of pain if you're
Mm-hmm.
going the wrong way.
Yes.
And that would transform our planet into a huge leap.
And again, even without the magic wand, you've been already doing this with your work, like how you transform the clients that you work with, and how you actually like do everything that you do right now. I mean, it's as if you already have a magic wand and can always use it, right?
It's
And
true. Um,
that I
it's true.
appreciate with you, um, because without the magic wand, you can actually do this, right?
That's true. Yet not yet reaching the whole planet, but I would say
Yes.
quite some.
Yes, yes. And I really hope that, we can reach out to more people and help them to be more self-aware, because at the end of the day, like what you've said, this is when they feel the pain, they would know where to go. I mean, it all starts with self-awareness after all, right? If you don't know what you're doing or the wrong things that you do, how can you actually correct it, right? So, and that actually, only when you have awareness, and you are willing to change, that's when transformation happens, right? Yeah, so and so that leads me to my last question for you, that if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be?
That's a question I get asked a lot from people, and that is why I can answer it best. And the question is, how do we, in fact, create reality?
Wow.
And it's a powerful question. And this question has an answer because we create reality, conscious or unconscious, but we create it constantly. And we create it by thinking, believing, feeling, and taking action. Thinking, believing, feeling, and take action. That these are the four steps we go through all the time when we create reality. Means what we perceive as a reality is nothing else than a mirror of what we think, believe, feel, and act upon. That sounds at the moment a bit crazy and sounds a bit like, but let your mind open, because as Frank Zappa said already once, keep your mind like a parachute. It functions only when it's open. And so it's like when you understand this, maybe you have to reflect a bit about these four steps, and then you will realize the truth behind. Because when you know that the reality is nothing else than a reflection of what you think, believe, etc., then you start to understand, aha, now I understand why this mindset thing not urgently works all the time. And I understand, aha, that is why this brainstem thing is so important. And that is what I didn't actually finish in the very beginning. I just realized the imprint thing, that is the thing that is located in the brainstem, and the brainstem has the authority to keep you alive. In the sense, that's the thing broken down. It's a bit more, but broken down to keep you alive in order to fight, flight, freeze, and reproduction. Okay, so these are the four levels where the brainstem always kick in the sense he switches on when he believes that his reality is threatened. Means when you have learned that this and this behavior is the normal for you, if something else comes towards you which is different, the brainstem switches on and shoots a hormone cocktail to the frontal lobe where your mindset, your envisioning, and all that stuff works, and set it off. The best you can experience that, and I'm pretty sure everybody of the audience listening or watching has experienced that already. When you had a verbal fight with somebody, on a certain extent, you get so angry that you have to leave the place, right? Flight, you leave. Now, after leaving the place, about 10 minutes later, suddenly you start to think, I could have brought this argument. I could have said that. I could have said this. And suddenly you bring all the good arguments you could have brought, but you did not bring them in the moment. Why? Because in that moment, the brainstem shoot the hormone cocktail to the frontal lobe. The argumentation of rational argumentation is off. You're only on rescue, means flight mode. And that is how it works. And that is how it works with everything. you experience in your reality. If you bump always in the wrong partner, you bump into it because you have to bump into that kind of personality, because your belief system, your imprints are leading you there. So that is actually what we call fate. We got led to something, we don't even know why, but we get led all the time there, so we call it fate. But in order to accept it, you don't do anything. But if you would change it, in the sense you transform it, then you shift your fate. And that's the most powerful thing, and how reality works, because when you understand how reality works and you make it your own, then you start to create and to design your reality according to your own wish and your own desire. And that works because we have enough for everybody and enough of everything for everybody, if we apply that rule the right way. And that is what I'm teaching actually to people all over the globe, how to create their reality, how to get out of their so-called fate, to shift their fate in order to design their life, to get from life what they want.
Wow, that's really powerful, powerful, Martin. If I don't know if people who heard this wouldn't, have an aha moment. I mean, that's really powerful. That, it's a great reminder as well that we can always create our own reality and like create what we want in life if we just transform and we just like, listen to that. I mean, to work on using more of the frontal brain rather than this part of the brain.
You cannot choose that.
But
You cannot choose that.
exactly, it's
It,
difficult,
it,
right?
it has the authority. We cannot choose that. The only thing we can do is we can transform the imprints. We can
Mm-hmm.
transform them by adding information that was missing. It's like when you take a computer, you have the basic system, the DOS or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and that runs as it runs. When you have now an virus on your computer, then the basic system doesn't work anymore the right way, right? It
Mm-hmm.
just does what it does. You have no choice. The only choice you have to, let's say in this case, repair. You have to heal. Let's take the
Yes.
word heal. You have to heal the computer. When
Mm-hmm.
we take it in correspondence to a human, I would not say repair, because we are not broken.
Exactly.
We need to heal.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and you have to transform. And this transformative process I've created, that is the self-transformation code that helps you to
Mm-hmm.
transform what is in your imprint, because the imprint will shoot in anyway. You cannot choose that. That is a physical mechanism. You cannot get around it. But you can transform what he plays out after taking the authority.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm doing.
Wow, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing with us like what you've been doing and how you are transforming people around the globe, right? So yeah, that's the end of my questions for you, and I really appreciate those powerful answers that you have shared with me. Is there any other message that you'd like to share before we end this interview?
I would say for sure a message of empowerment, a message of
Mm-hmm.
hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you go into the fear of the current situation, you create the fear. You
Mm-hmm.
create more of what you're fearing.
Mm-hmm.
So create the good things, focus on the good things you have around you, although this situation,
Mm-hmm.
focus on the good things. That is the first message I want to bring here. And be sure that, and that is a truth, when you look over human history, human beings were the most creative and the most powerful when they were at the edge. So just be aware of that. We have a superpower within us. Every single human has a superpower. Play this out, play your superpower. And the third thing I want to recommend you, if you're not done yet, get to a bookstore, get the book The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho, because
Wow.
he actually gives you, in a wonderful story, wrapped exactly the rules how to listen to your reality.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I should like look up to that and buy that book. Thank you so much, Martin. And I really learned a lot from you, and it triggered a lot of things for me to think of and take action for. Thank you so much for this interview. And thank you also to our viewers and to our listeners, whether you're watching this on a replay or live. I really appreciate your very I would say authentic and powerful message, Martin. And I'd like to give an invite as well to our viewers to do join us in this journey to fight the pandemic that has caused a lot of challenges, and let's turn it into opportunity through these interventions, right? And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment that you can ever make in your life. So, with that, I'd like to leave everyone with this quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create legacy that inspires others to dream more, to do more, to learn more, and to become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much again, Martin, and thank you, everyone. So, bye for now and do stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.